Okay, so we're focusing on professional ADR in this course. Is ADR the same as dispute resolution or dispute settlement, conflict resolution, conflict management, even conflict transformation?
Yeah, these are terms that are often used interchangeably and sometimes confusing for people. I think in the first place it's useful to distinguish the term dispute and the term conflict. So dispute is usually used to refer to a situation where the elements of the dispute or what you're arguing about it has already been communicated. So lawyers talk about isolating the issues in the dispute, so identifying and communicating among the parties what it is that we're arguing about. That's a dispute. It's fairly clearly defined. And a conflict often refers to something that's much broader and also deeper. We'll talk about the underlying issues in a conflict. You might have an underlying conflict and various disputes that emerge from one conflict. There might, for example, be a very large tension in the workplace that gives, is a catalyst for numerous disputes between different constellations of employees, for example. So that's the difference between conflict and dispute. If you then talk about dispute settlement, you'll often see that lawyers talk about dispute settlement a lot. And that comes from the fact that lawyers traditionally have focused on resolving the legal claims in a dispute, right? So you've got a clearly defined dispute and you settle those legal claims. So basically, lawyers have been traditionally engaging in positional negotiation and in some forms of mediation, particularly lawyer mediators, but not only, might focus parties on settling those claims. Right, so if you talk about dispute resolution, that goes beyond settlement, right, and is trying to address underlying interests. Yeah. But then you've got terms like conflict resolution, right, and the idea is that also takes you a little bit further away from the legal profession, if you like, and is a term that's more broadly used by a range of other disciplines and other professions, coming from, for example, the social sciences or management or business. Conflict management also, it's a term that's used a lot in business. And here again, you're looking at conflict in a broader sense than dispute. But also the use of the word management emphasizes that sometimes we can't always resolve disputes. Sometimes it's about managing them in different ways. Sometimes it might even be useful to keep a dispute alive because disputes or conflicts are the impetus for change. Right? And sometimes we need to manage that in a different way. Then there's also the term conflict transformation. And this, that term recognizes that sometimes you might need to transform a conflict into a different space or try to identify different disputes within a conflict. So the focus there is on the transforming it into something else. So all of these terms have a different focus and reflect the discipline or the profession from which that type of practice has emerged. A term that I like to use a lot is conflict engagement, because I think that's quite broad and puts the emphasis on the fact that there are different ways that people can engage with conflict, and the most constructive or useful way to engage in conflict is going to vary depending on the people involved in the conflict situation and depending on the dynamics and depending on the context.
Got you.